Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. Presented by Carolina Lakeweights. Come grip with us. When the action begins in the studio, our referees for tonight's event are Elgato Azul and Carolina Real Streamers. For the slime lovers in attendance and YouTube and Facebook users from around the world, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Live from the Elgato Azul TV studio in Louisville, Texas, it's time! What's up, slime lovers? I'm Chris. This is tonight. My co-host is driving to Georgia, so it's just going to be me and my guest tonight. We got an awesome guest tonight, Daniel Armstrong with Southern Monsters Guide Service. He's I've known Daniel now for probably, I don't know, first time I fished with. When did you start? When did you first start fishing with Tawakoni Guide Service?
So I was part-time for a little while, and then I got the chance to go down there and fish with Michael full-time at the end of 2015.
Okay, so that's been 7 years. I think that's the first time I fished with you. The last time I fished with you was about a year after you got on Parks planer boards, because I was like, oh, I like these boards, and you got me going with Parks. Now we're teammates. So how long was it? When did you start using those Parks boards?
Well, probably about 6 or 8, about halfway through the first winter that I was fishing with Michael down there.
Okay. Well, I guess I fished with you the last time after you just moved back to Texoma. It was December. We fished a North Front. It was brutally cold.
Pretty much tomorrow with rain up here.
We went and anchored shallow. We drug. Man, you worked your ass off to get us some fish, and we ended up catching a couple of 30s and some teeners, but it was a day most other guys probably got smoked. So, but Daniel's a great guy. He's one of our top guides in Texas. He fishes Lake Texoma, also Tawakoni from time to time. Seemed like that trip you went down and got bait at Tawakoni.
There for a little while. I was driving down there to catch, big shoot because it was easy down there. I don't know.
That's what you said. I was familiar with it. Look at these gizzard shad I got for us. So they were like 17 inchers, and that's no exaggeration.
We can't go behind Texoma anymore now that they've found those Asian carp or the big head or eye or whatever they're called. But now they won't let us transport anything, and that's normally where we went and caught our really big gizzards in the winter because they just go down river into the holes easy. Yeah. But if you get caught transporting, even it used to just be water and live shad. Now it's anything.
Yeah, so, I noticed they put fish on there too, so you can't catch fish out of there.
Yeah, we can't transport even dead bait. They say when they're like that 6 to 10 inch range, they look like gizzards, so they don't want to try to limit which if they got in the lake, that would be devastating.
That would, man. They've really taken over in a lot of areas, and they say they're really good for the larger fish, but they're terrible on the small when they breed. So let me see who's in here. We'll say what's up to everybody. So we got Cross-Eyed Catfish, and he is first. What's up, y'all? Let's go. We got Tommy McGee. What's up, Tommy? We got the King of Tennessee, Micah Burkhart. Welcome in, Micah. We got Jeremy Creole Catfishing. What's up, buddy? We got Poor Boy Catfishing. That's Jimmy Grunden. What's up, Jimmy? We got Eagle Eyes Tienda. He's one of my Operation Vets with Nets teammates. Welcome in, buddy. We got Monster Cat Mafia. That's Thomas Esslinger. We got Hunting and Stuff and J&J. Welcome in. Let's see. Operation Vets with Nets. That's Rich Segarra. That's the guy that runs the show. We got Anglerholics. That's my buddy Jesse Campbell. He was on the show last week. He fished with me with his son up at Texoma. The boys caught some good fish. It was tough fishing. I'm not gonna lie. We fished. We ran around with our chasing our tails for the first half of the day, and I went and looked two or three different spots, and I'm hauling ass across the lake. I come off plane, and I get a text, and it's this guy. He's like, "You're in the right spot, man. I just seen you come off plane." So when we shut down the motor, the graph lit up. I knew I was in the right spot. Appreciate that, Daniel. We got El Catfish Grande. That's one of my local fishing buddies. We got Fishing on Faith. That's little Adam Jr. He comes on the boat sometimes. You need to come back, Junior, and get you another PB, buddy. We got Vess Cooks. What's up, Vess? We got Avid Fisherman. Welcome in, Avid. And that is it. Appreciate everybody coming in. It's going to be a good show. Daniel's a Cat Masters tournament champion. Man, I swear every time they bring that to his lake, he's finished first, second, or third, it seems like. So, Daniel, I know it's your lake, but the lake is probably one of the hardest lakes in the country to fish.
That's why you don't see a lot of tournaments here.
I mean, it's tough. I feel like I got a good grasp on any lake. Even if I don't really know the lake well, I can go figure it out. But you've helped me a ton on Texoma. And you said, man, if you're in an area, just break down the section you're in. Don't try to run all over.
Yeah, the lake being 90,000 acres, you have to, a lot of lakes south of me, so everywhere else in Texas, you're looking at, high 30s to low 40,000 acre on average lakes. So to me, Texoma's, 3 of those. And you kind of got to break the lake down a little bit. Texoma's so big, there's no structure. That's the hardest part. You can't go, let's go fish this tree line or let's go fish around timber.
Yeah, guys are like, oh, go fish the ledges. Yeah. I'm like, well, the whole lake is 2 giant ledges.
Exactly. I just call it there's just a series of flats out there. Once you find the depth that you're catching them in, then you got to narrow down an area where there's fish everywhere. There's just the better fish are only in so many places.
Yeah, it seems like, I don't know, that lake to me, you got to throw a lot of stuff out that you've learned on other fisheries when you go there. I was talking with Trent. He was in one of my chats last week, and guys were asking, how deep do you fish in North Texas? What's the depth right now? And I'm like, well, a lot of fish up shallow. And I wouldn't go much deeper than 20 feet because that's just what depth they've been in. Really, they've been up shallow. And Trent's like, don't be afraid to go up in 1 or 2 foot. And I said, yeah, I'm going to go to Texoma, and I'll probably be out in 60, 70, maybe even 80 feet.
Yep. One of the fish we caught this morning was an 80 foot.
The fish we caught Saturday was in 76 feet.
Yep.
So why is that lake so much different than all the other lakes around us?
Well, I don't know. I kind of noticed too, whenever all the other lakes start really turning on, Texoma starts kind of getting really tough.
It seems like yours turns on earlier.
Yeah, I feel like
on big fish in late September. I know my buddies, because you start October.
Yeah, I try to wait till October, but normally somebody else, 2 or 3 people will talk me into starting last couple weeks of September. Especially if it's been cold or we got a lot of rain already, it can really kickstart it. But really, once this lake turns over, I don't know why. I think it's because I fish Texoma so much. I favor fishing deep.
Yeah.
And deep here, you're looking at 50 plus all the time.
Yeah. Like, guys are like, how deep are you, Chris? I'm like, well, I'm out in 30, but I'm fishing Texoma this weekend. I'll probably be in 60.
Yeah.
And last week, 2 weeks ago on Louisville, I was in 5 feet. I went to Texoma. I'm in 75 feet.
Well, if you look at the map on Texoma too, there's not you can't just say, hey, let's go fish this third of the lake because this third of the lake is 15 foot and shallower. You know, that's not this lake. This you got 60 foot leading all the way up to where the river almost comes in. And then you go to the red, and then once you get so far on the west side, it just flattens out. There's no channel, there's no nut, it's just flat all the way till you get to the Red River. So when they're out over there, it's once you figure out what depth they're in, then you can just target that depth because there's only so much of it. But when you go
when we fished, we had a big front that hit. And I mean, it was the day the front hit, and you're like, "Yeah, we're gonna go fish shallow. Why don't you meet me over by the bridge, and we'll put in there." And we went fished up in 2 feet, and that's when I probably would have been out deep on my lake. And you're up in 2 feet that day, and I mean, and the fish were crammed up, and you're like, "Well, it's dirty water. So if it's dirty water, if there's dirty water coming, I guess it had rained, and you're like, if there's dirty water coming, I generally like to get up." In that is that
so no matter what lake I fish, it doesn't matter if I'm catching fish 30 miles away, you know, if we get a ton of rain and everything you're doing, throw it out the window and go to the freshwater. Period. Don't think, doesn't matter what time of year it is, how cold it is, it does not matter. Probably the best day I think I've ever had on fishing in general, where me and my dad Miggy were fishing about 2 to 3 foot of water on Tawakoni. The water temperature when we got there was 38 degrees. And then we probably caught, I don't know how many big fish we caught. It was by far the best rod and reel day.
Well, you know, you were lucky to guide on Tawakoni, I guess probably right at its heyday.
When it was good,
it's really, I mean, it's sad, man. It's really,
not the same lake. It's not the same lake.
Declined big time. It used to be not that big of a deal to go catch 260s, a 50, and 440s and 830s.
Oh yeah,
on a good day. And
you didn't catch 2 or 3 fish over 50 pounds. You're like, man, we had a crappy day.
Yeah, what's wrong with this? What's going on?
The cooler would still be full, but you were like, what the heck?
And you didn't even have to pick the perfect section. I mean, you could move around and catch some 40s here. We got a 50 and 3 over here, and then we made another move and we ended up getting a 70 and 260s over there. But I you know what happened to that lake? I think a lot of guys were catching. I know from looking at that Facebook page, there's guys catching whole stringers of them. And
we can point the blame at everybody. Social media posting, gave it the. You know, we brought the attraction there, which is going to bring guys who don't necessarily fish for the sport of it. They'll fish for, you know, the freezer filling part of it.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard, Daniel, when I'm at that dock at Anchor Inn, where guys are on that dock saying, yeah, we come down here every year for about 2 weeks, and we just catch as many as we can and is for 2 weeks straight, and then we take them back home and give them to the church and give them all.
It happens here too, but another nice thing about here is there's no timber, so it's jug lines instead of trot lines and stuff.
Man, that lake is full of jug lines, boy.
Yeah, you start getting around the spring, and anywhere either side of the lake going to the rivers, you can't drag. That's for sure. Because
last time I was up there this spring, me and my son got an 80. And we were up shallow dragging, and we drug through some guys. I mean, he had the whole inlet covered with a line.
It gets crazy.
And he's like, man, he pulls a 60 in. He's, man, I'm going to eat good. I'm like, golly.
Yeah.
Put that thing back. There's plenty up here to eat. But I don't know. I think that it's going to be, you know, that lake obviously caught the first supersized catfish in the country.
Especially for down here.
Yeah. But before that, I mean, it was pretty, I mean, that was giant compared to the other ones that have been caught. Now, obviously, that's been broken plenty of times now, but do you think that there's another one in there like that, or do you think all the pressure?
There's got to be. There's got to be. I've caught, since I've started guiding full time back here on Texoma, I mean, I've caught 290s,
Yeah.
So I'm on the water a lot though. So
yeah, and you're
but
ready.
still, a
You're
90
ready for
pounder
'em.
in a reservoir is a lot different than 90 pound in like a major river system.
Yeah.
You know, it's it takes them a lot longer to get big. Um, you know, to reach that 100 pound mark. But there's plenty of them in Texoma. There's plenty of food. I think our striper,
Man,
the
it seems
striper in
like
this lake, adds such a major food source for those fish. I think the other day I was reading a report from the biologist on Oklahoma studied some southern Oklahoma and lakes in Texas, and Texoma was included. And they said that Texoma probably had one of the fastest growth rates for catfish out of
yeah.
all the lakes they studied.
Well, what's weird to me is that lake, they seem to stay deep when other lakes they won't. It's like the lunar surface on the deep ends of the lake. Is that because there's flow? Is it because
Oh, there's no flow in here. I mean, they do generate for power when they want to. There's
yeah?
no schedule, but most of the time there's no flow unless there's
Well, it seems like that
unless
deep
there's a
water
flood.
stays oxygenated pretty good.
Not during the summer, it doesn't.
Yeah,
And during the summer, you'll be like where we were dragging Saturday. That area will be you can't fish deeper than like 25 foot. You drop a live shad down there when we're
yeah,
striper fishing, and he dies.
yeah.
But as soon as the lake turns over, that's where I go to. It's like the catfish are just out there. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. It's a big lake. It's a big lake. Last year I spent a lot of time out west, and this year I've noticed I spent a lot of time out east. So it kind of changes every year too.
I know that it don't take much to make that lake oceanic.
No, it was rough this morning. It was
I
bad.
mean, it probably was 12-mile-an-hour wind when we fished Saturday, and it ran a lot of the guys off of the lake.
Oh
So
yeah,
my boat can handle it, but a lot of
that's
guys.
why you see everybody up there. Nobody's got a little boat that's running trips and
Right.
guiding.
Otherwise, you're going to be sitting on the sideline a lot, or
You're gonna be
tucked up,
hiding all the time.
tucked up, not being, and also moving. The lake's, I mean, it's a beast.
Yeah.
I call it the beast of the border because it's just so. I mean, I got my lake's 30,000 acres, and it's pretty. You can't fish the whole thing in a day. I feel like when I go to Tawakoni, I can kind of go run around that lake and find what I need. But my lake's got the arms, and
Yep.
it's like a smaller version of your lake, except it doesn't have the depth. But to move around, it's freaking impossible, especially on a big water day. It's
Yeah. If it's real windy, you gotta where you're fishing is gonna be determined by the wind. Unless you got some young guys in the boat and you can just send it and fish where you want to.
yeah.
But
And my buddies are like, man, is this safe? I'm like, well, we're catfish anglers. I mean,
if we're not, yeah, just stay
we're not
seated.
pushing it a little bit. I mean, we're supposed, we're crazy. Yeah. So, but you're a guide, so you got to, safety's the number one deal. But
yeah,
you don't want to scare your customers.
Some clients you can do, some clients you can't. You gotta, do you got kids coming? How old are they?
Yeah.
Like today, the guys are pretty young. They're my age basically, and they can we can fish. We can fish where we want to fish.
Yeah.
It just may take us longer to get there because of how rough it'll get.
Rich says, "Is it due to the abundance of food?"
Texoma is loaded with bait, and we got all the striper in here, which is, since they naturally reproduce, there is just millions and millions of them.
So it's one of the only inland fisheries where striper will reproduce naturally. Now, and there's one of the highest populations of striper of any fishery in the country is at Texoma. So I always say striper lakes tend to have giant blue cats in them. They eat them.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't have to eat a little shad. Now they're eating,
No, we clean them all the time. where they got 12, 14, even 16, 18-inch striper hole in their guts.
Yeah, you can imagine what a big one that you're not cleaning. What size?
I'm not saying that they're definitely not saying they might not be chasing them down and eating them, but the 100 to 200 striper guides on the lake, on any given Friday or Saturday morning, will not every single fish is going to live that goes back.
Yeah.
And so
right.
that that's what they're eating. But on the other hand, catfish are a lot more aggressive than a lot of people give them credit for too.
They are. I don't know how efficient feeders they are, but they are aggressive feeders. So they got to keep hammering down on them. And I think, the reason they like striper or sand bass or hybrids, I believe, is the striper and sand bass, they get keyed in on their prey. They're not paying attention to this big guy that's sitting underneath them. So they just can go get it.
I always tell everybody catfish are going to eat the easiest meal they can get to.
Yeah.
So, chasing the big schools of striper that are chasing the bait, they're just getting, dead everything mixed in. And then when they're fired up, the striper or whatever gets too close, they're going to eat it. It doesn't, if it swims in the lake, the catfish will eat it if it gets too close, without a doubt.
Yeah, they're creatures of opportunity, and they do like a big prey. I know my buddies where they're really catching giant 100-pounders. A lot of times they're fishing around carp, these invasive carp. They're like, it's not good for the smaller fish, but man, the bigger fish really do well around them.
When I can catch them, I keep them. Just like we catch a lot of freshwater, we catch a lot of drum in here, and every single one of them I catch, and then the 3 or 4 guides that we all fish out of the same dock. They know if they're going to catch one in the morning in the net, or they catch one while they're fishing, they'll throw it in the cooler and give it to me this time of year, knowing I'm going to use it for catfish bait.
So when you clean your fish, you clean them at the dock?
Yeah, we just clean them right there at the dock, throw them in.
I mean, that's probably a good spot to fish.
There's a surplus of them, but they're trained. There's guys fishing on the bank all the time, and they hate it whenever we finally come in to clean, because they're like, well, y'all just ruined it. Y'all feed them, and then they're going to go take a nap.
Yeah.
So
but if they go fish there right before you get there, it's probably a good chance they can hammer a big one. And I've seen some huge fish coming off the cleaning stations from Texoma. I mean,
especially if you go to
giants.
If you go to the deeper ones, the one I'm cleaning, I clean out of a kind of a semi-private area. That's it's not deep enough once it gets real cold, but the deeper marinas, without a doubt, have giant fish that live under the dock probably all year long, and they'll never leave.
It's easy pickings,
but it's also hard to pull one out. It's hard to pull a giant out from underneath the dock that's been there for 30 years. There's no telling what's under there. Just every opportunity to lose them, you'll have it when you hang into a real big one around a cleaning station.
So somebody asked, what reels are you using? I'm using Dakotas.
So,
and somebody says, how are Dakotas compared to a Penn Squall? What reels are you using? Because I know you put yours through the ringer.
Yeah, I have the Squalls. I have the PC Fun reels. I just bought the 6,000 Chaoses to try out this year, so I got half and half of I'm running the 15 level line Squalls. They're the original. They're not the twos. They're the original ones. But as far as max drag goes, they're better than the PC Fun ones.
Yeah.
But they're great. They're real similar to the C3s. So far they're holding up, but they're also they're $100 cheaper when you got to buy 10 or 12 of them at a time. That goes into picking.
How long you been running them?
Just this season. So far I haven't.
You're about a month.
About a month in.
Yeah.
So now I've had no issues out of it.
Your month of use is probably compared to just the average guy. I mean, not everybody fishes. I mean, you fish almost every day. I fish every weekend. Some guys don't. I mean, and even the guys that they just don't put the same type of abuse on them.
So the Dakotas, before I moved back home from fishing at Tawakoni with Michael, he had just rigged most of the rods with the Dakotas, and honestly, I love them. They're great reels.
He turned me onto them.
We were having issues with the C3s breaking at the reel seat.
That's what I said. So
you'd be fighting a fish, and the reel would break off.
That's what happened to me. You know, now Michael is putting in more pounds on a damn rod than as much as anyone. You know, I mean, just hammering them. But I started breaking them, and I went and asked him. You know, I'm breaking these C3s at the reel foot, or I'm bending them where like they're bent. And he's like, yeah, I actually switched to these trolling reels from Shimano, and I'm going from I don't remember what he told me he was breaking, but he was breaking those other ones pretty consistently.
Oh, we were having them break on takedowns.
Yeah, he's like, man, we had a 70 on, and I was over there holding the reel, and the person was trying to
it happened several times. It was becoming almost a daily, like, hey, do we have a story? You know, one of us would break one. We'd have to hand line them in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a good fishing story, but the thing with that on a C3, it's a tack weld. It's just it's just like a tack weld, and they don't fix that. They're like, oh, well, you got to buy a whole new frame, and you might as well just get a new reel. And I'm like,
you definitely don't get the quality of reel that you used to, based on the price that they are now.
So Mosley says he's breaking all his C3s also. So I can tell you, since I switched to the Dakotas about 7 years ago, I mean, I don't take care of mine at all. I fish with them hard.
Sean Brown does all my reel cleaning and stuff. And
I asked Sean, he's like, well, the Shimanos are real durable. They're just not fun to work on.
Yeah, that's what he's told me. Now, the pins, I mean, I love the squalls. Honestly, I think if you forced me to pick one or the other right now, I think I would still prefer the squalls. But the price point is way better on the PC Fun or whatever you pronounce them. I'm not sure, but those are the ones that the Chaoses they've been great. I don't have no complaints on them. They actually keep you from being able to get the drag too tight. I will say that the Dakotas and the squalls will let you get that drag probably a little tighter than you really should.
I've actually forgot and cranked mine down. I'm trying to, when I'm hung up or something, and I forget to put the thing back down. And yes, you can lock them down. You know, but it is what it is. It's quality, no doubt. It's just a little different. And when you get one in your hand, it's just so tight and precise.
Yeah.
There is no shimmy or shake.
You definitely, if you'll spend the money on the reels, you're going to get what you pay for, without a doubt. The Chaoses are really, really nice. I will say they cast fantastic. Honestly, I think if I fish shallow water because of the smaller profile, those would probably, if I had enough rods for it.
So what's the gear ratio on those?
They're 5.3. 5.3.
Okay, well, that's not too bad, but
they're not terrible, but they're not.
I do like the high gear ratio for pulling boards and when you got to move, or cranking in a big board with a big. I know you fish big baits. I fished with you enough to know that guys like, yeah, Daniel uses little bait. I'm like, I don't know.
I'm notorious for running small stuff though. I'm notorious for it.
I know you will, but when I fished with you, I'm like, well, I mean, if you call that small, okay, but
depends on what you want to catch. Once we get some in the cooler, all that, every time I got to change bait, it's no longer small. Then we'll just pull those big ones around until they go down. But especially if you're trying to fill the cooler, that's the difference in guiding versus fishing for yourself or maybe tournament, whatnot. If I'm in a tournament today, probably wouldn't have been as bad. Because we were running bigger baits most of the time.
Trying to get somebody there, they want to ride home about.
When you get guys that fish all the time, they're not necessarily looking. Most guys can go out and catch, a cooler full or enough for the freezer or whatever. You book a guide to try a different technique, learn how to fish a certain lake. or maybe get a chance at a truly giant fish, and so you'll run a little bit bigger average bait, which you'll catch less fish, but
you're also
when you're guiding, you gotta
one.
I gotta set up to what the client wants versus how I want to fish. If I want to go fishing the way I want to fish, I just bring my dad along because we probably won't catch nothing unless it's a lake record. So,
so guys that don't know Daniel, his dad, he's got a dad that was a guide who was also, I mean, he's pretty much a legend in his own right. Now, Daniel, he's been able to step outside his dad's shadow, and Daniel's now, I mean, even though I call Daniel a young, I've known Daniel a while, but when he first started fishing, I'm like, I don't know how this damn kid is able to be so good. But he does come from a fishing family. His dad is pretty much a legend. When they fish together, they're damn near unbeatable.
Yeah, I mean, when Cody caught Splash here on Texoma, that's who I grew up fishing around. I fished with Cody Mullinex and Steve Nelson, and Mickey Petrie's my dad, and then you got Tommy Blansett, some of the originals from up here. And then you go down to Tawakanee. I remember going to Tawakanee the first time I ever been down there. We went with David Hansen.
Yeah,
the pretty much the first big catfish guy down there, and matter of fact, he just started guiding again.
Okay, because I know he had shut down. I know he was running out of anchor in for a long time.
Yep, he's actually bought another boat, and when that's what you do forever, I don't think I can ever just not fish.
He's a good guy. He can be salty for the new guys coming. He's like, these damn new guys.
He'll let you know where you stand on his level of approval for sure.
Well, we hit it off because I usually, he's like, man, what'd you do? How'd you do? I'm telling him what we did. He's like, damn, that's pretty good. So he's a good guy. And what, he's been doing it as longer than anyone, really.
Well, the first time we ever went to Tawakanee, you couldn't even get a boat in the lake. It was like 15 or 16 foot low. Wind point was touching the timber line. Like, you couldn't get between the bank and the timber. That's how low the lake was. I remember taking four-wheelers and bank fishing one time down there. And like you say, you just go anywhere down the bank. If you're on the water, you just beach your boat, or you just bank fish anywhere and catch them.
Facebook user says, Daniel, put us on them. And Daniel, he's probably about as consistent a big fish angler as you'll get. I know today he hit the buzzsaw, but that is not normal for him. Even on the worst days, he was apologizing to me the day we fished, and we caught a couple 30s, some 20s, a handful of teeners. And he's like, man, I'm sorry. When you told me you were coming, I really just was hoping we get into some big ones. But I mean, you busted your ass to get us on fish. And I was like, well, I can tell you what, I've been with other guides that just would have given up. They wouldn't run around the lake like you did, trying to figure something out. And we ended up, I mean, a couple 30s pretty good on most accounts. I know on, for what you do, that's just an off day, but
sometimes, I mean, I got to remember a lot of my business too is repeat, or they've come with somebody that's fished with me all the time, and so I've got a lot of guys that see the days that they should never go fishing again, because we'll never do that again. And then you got guys like today. Honestly, that guy, he fishes all the time. It was perfect because he, I don't ever want to suck like I did today, but they're going to come back right before New Year's. We're going to go out and make it happen, but they're super understanding. That makes it a little easier. I used to take it real hard. You have a bad day, but I definitely don't lose because I didn't try.
Yeah, that's what I've respected, because I've been with a lot of guys that they're like, oh, it's just an off day, and sorry, you'll come, if you come back, I'll get you again, which, I mean, that's what most guys will do anyway, but you never gave up. I mean, we fought to the bitter end, and you're like, we can stay out here as long as you guys want. And if y'all want to stay out here till dark, we'll stay out here till dark. I'm like, no, I mean, we caught a few good ones. We're good. We're good. So, I mean, I thought that was pretty awesome. Matt Mosley said best guide on Texoma, hands down. And there's a ton of great guides on Texoma, but I'll have to agree, Daniel, he goes above and beyond. His
Matt
success,
just started fishing. He just started trying to dip into the guiding stuff. You got him a Falcon, and
he's doing well. I've known Matt, a while, and he's a really good guy. He's a great angler. He's he's doing well on the toughest lake in Texas.
It's nice whenever he's fishing, so I can make sure it's not just me sucking. There's nobody else out there today, so
he speaks very highly of you. He's appreciative that you've helped him along. A lot of guys wouldn't do that. I said, well, Daniel, he's a good guy. I sucked at Texoma for 15 years, and I'm like, I'm just going to freaking hire Daniel to teach me. So when I asked you, hey, I know the conditions are going to be different from when I may come back here, and you're like, just call me anytime, and I'll help you out.
It's a giant lake. There's, out of all the people who fish this lake, there's 2-3% of people who are catfishing, unless they're running jugs. But I don't have no pressure up here, and it's nice, but it also sucks sometimes too, because it's nice to be able to work with other people.
Yeah. Anytime I go up there, I know who I'm calling. I'll always say, Daniel, how deep y'all been? Are y'all, you're like, oh man, we're out 70 feet, and I can trust what you're telling me. Now I may go run around in 70 feet and suck, and you're like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm sucking. You're like, well, point me in the right direction. And I think that's pretty cool that you do that. I know Matt's, he's the same type of guy. A lot of guys are like that are helpful. I turn them loose. What does it matter? I'm not going to.
I don't care. There's the
only time you all tight-lipped with me was around Cat Masters, and you're like, I got this coming up. I can't.
Yeah, I mean,
like, I get it, man. I was
like, no offense, but I'm not. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you everything 2 weeks before. I'll just shut down. I won't post. No water pictures. No pictures at the dock. And
or you're taking a picture, you're moving, and hey,
my the Seahawks. It doesn't being a big fiberglass boat, like yours too, and we don't have big giant live wells like some of the more catfish driven boats are, and so I can't just put them in the live well and go hide and go take a picture somewhere else and then release them.
Matthew Kiker says, let's see, brought up a good point. Are the squall bait clickers, how is the squall bait clicker volume?
They're loud.
They're loud.
They're pretty loud. And
I don't remember. Do you use the clickers when you anchor?
I don't ever use clickers.
Okay. The clickers, you lose a lot of fish, anchoring. Now, I will put the clickers on the ones that I can't keep an eye on, that are, when I spread everything around the boat, I'll put some clickers on those. But
the only time I'll use clickers if we're having a very weird bite day.
Yeah.
And I'm typically going small bait, small hook, but it's rare. I mean, that's 1%.
I've lost a million fish trying to run those damn clickers.
I lose so many fish. I got guys that are like, oh man, we only run clickers. We love the clickers. And I'm like, man, I just don't have any luck with them. Unless
either. It seems like I get this huge run. It's obviously a good fish.
Yeah.
And then I crank down on it and it's gone. I'm like, what?
About the only time you'll see me make sure I run clickers is if I'm floating balloons or floating a big cork or something. Especially if you're fishing in a bunch of brush or like last year at Ray Roberts, we had a bunch of water coming in and a bunch of debris. And one thing to keep me from fishing the getting hung up from all the debris, I'd float corks and balloons, and that stuff would just work off of all the debris, and I was able to fish all that current effectively. But I ran my clickers a little tighter so they could take it and run with it.
Yeah.
Or they could pull the line out and it'd come over the log or go off the log or something. but that's like very rare. Very rare do we have that kind of water coming in any body of water around here.
Last time we fished up there together, the lake was low, and you're like, man, we can't even get up there around those mountains. I mean, and we saw a mud motor guy getting up in there, and he got in trouble up in there, man. I mean, he tried to get out. It seemed like half the day he was looking. He's like, yeah, there's a little channel, and he's looking for it, but
yeah,
he was stuck half the day up in there trying to work it out.
It's tough. There's a lot of gar over there. But when the catfish are there, it's awesome. But when
I fished there March, I think till March and April. Man, it was great fishing.
Yeah,
tons of big fish.
And I'll normally run through March. You'll catch me fishing out. I won't fish that deep stuff. I'll go out west or go up north to either river, and pretty much March that's where I'm spending my time. But since I fish for multiple species, I'll fish through March. And then I cut it off at the end of March, and then I switch all over to just my smallmouth and my striper fishing.
Yeah.
By then, I'm tired of catfishing. Now, I've been catfishing since late September, and ready to take the rod holders off the boat.
You're ready to do something a little different.
Just go for the faster pace and the shorter days.
Yeah, that striper fishing is fast action and early. So on your striper trips, how many are y'all catching right now? I see you just like past few weeks you've been getting some really big ones for Texoma anyway.
Kind of, yeah. This has been kind of a slow summer, fall type of. The water got so hot. I don't know. Normally when it gets real hot, the big fish kind of shut down on us. There's a topwater bite happening. I can't figure it out. I'm not a lure fisherman by any means. I can do it when it's good, but I'm definitely not the best. I prefer to live bait fish most of the year.
Yeah.
But we're starting to catch some bigger ones. The water temperature is mid-60s. You start getting low 60s into the 50s, the lake will just be going crazy. We should be catching big fish at will. I say as far as how many you're going to catch in a trip, it's day to day, but you could go out and catch as many fish as you're willing to put bait in the tank, honestly. So, like, I'm off tomorrow.
You're using live thread fin, correct?
Yep. Yeah. In the fall, you'll catch me I'll mix it up. Sometimes I'll go catch bait in the afternoons and try to target gizzards. But right now we're starting to catch big thread fin again, so I prefer the threads because they're more frisky when you drop them down. And I don't know, striper, I guess, eat for the sport of it because if they're not, your bait's not swimming around the line, they don't want to chase it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you catch 100 striper in the morning during specific times of the year. That's every day.
Yeah, it's almost a guarantee, right? I mean,
almost. You're catching a lot of fish,
and there's a lot of different groups. You can move off. It's not like the smaller fisheries where all the fish are together. You can go move around.
There'll be sections that it's really, really good in, but you can also venture out and catch them normally in a lot of different places. The only time it really, really locks down is like going into summer. All the fish will go to the deep water and they'll do the little run in school. It's every year, and there'll be 200 guides and guys in their own boats, and we're all in a
crazy how many guides are on that lake. It's just insane.
It brings people out who have never seen it.
It's crazy.
All the people.
I go up there and fish every fall, usually, and it's pretty much right after Thanksgiving. I've been going every year for the last 25 years. Catfish. I catfish. I mean, I don't striper fish anymore. I used to striper fish when there was striper in Louisville, but I'm basically catfisherman now year round. And when I fish up there could be I think last 2 years I fished around those islands out in the deeper water, and there was probably 10 groups of birds dive bombing fish just in that one section. I'm like, there's 10 different groups of fish working this section. It's just.
The nice thing about the fall time is, you're going to get pretty much us full-time guys that are out fishing. and so you don't have near the traffic that you'll have in the spring going into summer as you do going into the colder months. But yeah, it's very easy when the water finally gets cold and it quits getting 80 something degrees randomly.
Yeah.
Uh,
You told me,
you
hey,
can just find
around the
schools.
striper, there's not going to be big catfish with every group, but if you'll just keep moving, just look on your graph, big fish around them. And
Texoma 101, follow all the action.
That's what I've done, and it's served me well. I went from getting my ass handed to me fairly frequently on that lake, like a lot of guys, to now. I usually do pretty good until I see what you did, and I'm like, well, damn, I didn't do that good.
It helps being out there every day, big time.
Yeah, that's for sure. But one thing is like if you break down a section, there is a lot of variety of areas in each section where there's a flat on top of the ledge, there's the ledge, there's the channel, and then there's little secondary features like little creeks that run off of the channel and islands and all kinds of stuff. So there are a lot of fishy areas, and if what you thought didn't work in that section, there's usually a lot of other stuff to go look at to try to put something together.
Once you kind of, especially if you spend multiple days or you kind of get some fish narrowed down in an area, if they move, I promise you they didn't go very far. Don't do what I used to do or what a lot of people do was we got to abandon this area. Well, this area could be 5, 6, 7, 8 miles wide and long, and just move within the area a little bit. Don't abandon it.
Yeah,
that's what I tried to do today. I mean, it didn't work, but
you were marking the fish.
They just weren't biting. You can't make.
We got a big front approaching, so
it's already it should be starting to get here. The wind's supposed to change. A little before midnight.
We got a 20-degree change. We got north wind for 3.5 days. So I mean, tomorrow could be tough.
I'll be sleeping in tomorrow.
Friday's going to be good. Friday's probably going to be pretty good. Saturday got a chance if you're in the right area. It's going to be on.
Really good. Yeah. I think Saturday and Sunday will be really, really good fishing days. And
I always say that third day of north wind, boy, it's usually, if you're in the right spot, it can just be epic.
Definitely. Then, the day before, like today, normally is either one or the other.
It's either on fire or it's
like it was today. Terrible.
Up. Yeah.
Terrible. The striper, I can convince them scaly fish to bite most days, no matter what. Whether we catch 100 fish or we just catch our limit. Normally they're a whole lot easier to get to bite down. The catfish are more like crappie. They're going to bite when they want to bite, and that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, usually though, when the catfish are turned off, you can still usually get a few, and maybe even a really good one on a day like that. But some days you hit the buzzsaw, and usually on those days it's because you zigged when you should have zagged. But sometimes you're on them and you're like, damn, they just don't want to.
Well, I got off of them a little bit, and I was like, I'm not chasing them. I'm going back. I know they're out there. I've been catching them in the same area for weeks. I can put 10 boats out here, and we're all going to catch them. There's so many of them out here.
What's going to push them out of? What pushes them out of there? I mean,
the wind, the bait. I noticed I didn't mark as much bait out there, but there was a ton of striper still out there. So, and it was also probably blowing 30 for most of the morning.
Yeah,
I had the old big boy drift socks out, all 4 of them.
So a lot of times that wind's really good, but it also if they're kind of turned off, it makes for
it makes it even worse. It's like now it's windy and I'm still not catching nothing.
Yeah. Let's see here. Ripping Lip says, "What's up, guys?" Okay, these guys are just going back and forth. Somebody blew up their motor. Sorry about that. I was at the lake the other day. I was talking to Daniel this afternoon. He's like, man, we had a bad day. I'm like, well, I was at the lake and I saw a boat with just the graph and a buoy, a dock buoy floating. So it could be worse. And my buddy Jeff, he proved it. He blew up his motor. So that sucks, Jeff. Sorry, buddy. I don't mean to laugh. Most of us have all been there.
That's one of those ones that, I mean, you just got to laugh it off.
Yeah.
That sucks. That sucks.
Yeah. You could be that guy whose boat's sitting on the bottom of the lake. So it does get worse. But so I've got a tournament, this online tournament for Operation Vets with Nets this weekend. I went and looked last night. I didn't really fish much. I fished for about 45 minutes the mouth of a creek, and I was just going to scan around. The lake was turning over in mid depth, which sucks. So I fished for about 45 minutes. I didn't even get a bite. I reeled up. I had 3 fish on.
One of the couple fish we actually did catch today was on whenever we reeled up.
I didn't even
know. He was about 5
there.
or 6 pounds. So I mean, he was big enough that he should have took the rod down, no problem.
Yeah, he just grabbed him as you're going by and never did much. So it is what it is. When I saw the lake yesterday, I'm like, I better start figuring out a plan B. So I put the feelers out today. I got guys, all my guide buddies on different lakes, and they're all fishing Friday. We'll see how it goes. I'll be you up for intel too. So hopefully somebody's on them good Friday and I can make a call. I'm not fishing Louisville. It looked terrible. Micah says, "Yep, no need to get mad about it." And you know, fishing. There becomes a point, I think, when you fish is now. Daniel fishes more than me because he does it for a living. But becomes a point where, it wasn't you that day. You were on the fish. Now there are days where you're like, I screwed it up. You zig when you should have zagged. I've been on Daniel's Lake where I ran all over that damn thing and burnt up half my day looking where I should have focused on the area I was in. But there are days like what Daniel ran into today. I know he was on good fish. He didn't want to bite. So
that's probably one of my favorite things about fishing deeper too, is they seem to be less affected when you get sudden changes. And I don't know, not much change from yesterday. Now it was a slower bite yesterday, but definitely not as bad as it was today.
All I could think, barometric pressure plays a little bit of a role in it. I noticed today the barometric pressure did this. It just, maybe that, I know they like the barometric pressure to look pretty steady.
Falling. That's what I prefer. Anytime it's right, just moving in general is better than just sitting up high.
Yeah, you don't want it sitting up high. That's for sure.
That's pretty much what we got stuck with today.
Makes them feel bad. But do y'all still drift or troll in water temps below 50? And I'm going to say, hell yeah. And I know Daniel, he goes big and small, but I go big in the winter. Really?
The colder it gets, typically I'll slow down, but I'll still pull. But I'm also not inclined to anchor fish either. Last year I did a lot more of that, even in the deeper stuff than I have in the past. Today would have probably been an example, which I tried. I did scan around. I just didn't see anything stacked up, kind of like the picture I sent you on Saturday.
Yeah.
Those fish you probably could have anchored on.
Yeah, right when they come off the end of that ledge. I mean, if you pinpoint, if you're pretty good at pinpointing your anchor, you can.
I will say too, I always start out. If I'm normally pulling 8 rods on average, unless I'm tournament fishing. I'll pull however many they allow me to. But my standard's 8. I'll run at least 2 big, like really big baits.
Yeah.
And then everything else is kind of stair step down.
So you put your biggest baits out your furthest.
They'll be my furthest planer boards every time.
That's exactly how I orient all mine. I go big, smaller, and then
the smallest ones out are the ones I got to mess with the least. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And then I'll stair step it down.
Biggest fish, and that's the reason why I started doing it. Now I know a lot of guys do it that way now, but I know when you started dragging planer boards, you just kind of had to figure it out on your own.
You get in boats with other people, and it's amazing on the different techniques that everybody uses for pulling. It's whatever. There's no right or wrong way. It's whatever works for you. Whatever keeps you from getting everything else tangled up every time you hook up to one fish. Nothing like a 4-pounder just destroying your whole setup.
That's chaos catfishing. Pulling planer boards, it's probably one of the more chaotic ways of fishing.
But there's no depth too that I'll pull in. I'll pull in a foot of water, and I'll pull in the deepest water in the whole lake. It does not matter to me.
Yeah, I do the same. I know a lot of guys say, you can't pull up shallow. I'm like, the hell we can't. We do it all the time.
It's so cool too when they take it down, because you think fishing shallow is fun. Whenever they take it down and blow up, try pulling the board shallow and they take it down. And it's a big one. Yeah. That's fun.
They also go airborne a lot when they're shallow. Yeah. They're like a damn dolphin.
And then they take off running. They show you how fast a fish really can be.
Yeah, it's cool to see a planer board take off like a jet ski grabbed it.
Yep.
Like.
Yep.
Yeah, I love fishing shallow with them. You're going to have you got to do it sometimes a little bit different. If you go super long lines and you're shallow, you will get hung up a lot more. So you got to fish them a little bit different than if you're out deep. When I'm out deep, I put quite a bit of line out for my planer boards. I don't have a lot of guys just almost have them straight down. I'm like, I don't see a whole lot of fish in the water doing this.
I don't like it bouncing.
I like it.
But there's a fine line, and the planer board not doing what it's supposed to by pulling the lines out if you got too much behind it. But if you don't have enough behind it, one thing I've started doing is I'll run more weight on the ones I got my boards on. Yeah, that way I can decrease the line behind it, and it's still going to get down there and present it like my other rods are going to present it.
Yeah, I've noticed I have to run a little heavier weight when I'm on your lake. That deeper water, there's a lot of line, that drag of all that mono water. You need a little heavier weight to pin that thing down to get the boards to pull right. And
that'll change if you run braid versus mono, but I prefer
run braid or mono.
I like mono.
I do too. Anything. I do too.
The only braid I run is if I'm throwing lures or my smallmouth stuff. I run real light braid, but to leaders, I tie fluorocarbon leaders on. But if I'm catfishing, I'm all mono, no matter where I'm at, unless I go to the Mississippi or the Tennessee and I'm bumping. Then I run braid. And that's just because you have to.
So, like when you went and fished the Mississippi Monsters, and you did well there. I think you fished with Spud. Is that?
Yeah, the last one we went, I think a year and a half ago now. We didn't fish the last set, but we went to Memphis with him last September, and
I was impressed that y'all were able to do that well against guys who fish that river all the time.
It's different. It's different. Honestly, I think once you can figure out how to fish different bodies of water, and it'll just help you get good at what you're used to fishing all the time.
So when you're fishing these big time tournaments, for guys that don't know, Daniel, he's won Cat Masters here at Texas. Cat Masters started at with Possum Kingdom. That was the first big time catfish tournament in the country. It started at Possum Kingdom, and then they kind of spread their wings from there. But they started having a real big one up at Texoma. And I noticed they changed the format this last year to a kind of a PFL smaller. Yeah, and you weren't in that. I'm like, how come the champion's not in there?
I don't know, just a little bit. When you guide full time, I can't. It's hard.
I know a lot of guys are like, I'm working.
It's hard because you when you start looking at how much money
you got to pre-fish too, and you can't have people on the boat and all that, right? If you want to win,
exactly.
Everybody's looking at. Let's be real. Everybody's watching what you're doing before.
Oh yeah. So when I go fish these other tournaments, I to get there really early. Your bait situation's got to be under control. Your because you ain't got bait, then all the pre-fishing you're doing is useless. But you got to figure out this body of water. You know, if I'm not familiar with it, then I don't know how I want to target them. But PK, now that I've always placed good in that lake. I just never won. I can't. That lake, I hate it, but I do good on it. You know, for the most part.
Yeah.
And then Tawakoni. Every time they go to Tawakoni, I don't know what happens. I forget how to fish every time. I think it's because I know it too well and I try to get fancy.
Yeah.
And it backfires. And
yeah.
it's like, just
seemed like the last. Did you fish the last Cat Masters? That was,
oh yeah, when they all went down there and
St. Cyr won that one. Another one of our fishing buddies, and
they came in with, you know, like the top 5 people had 200 and something pounds, and
it made you feel bad.
Oh man.
Well, that's what you told me the other day when we were fishing. You're like, I'm not even going to tell you what we caught because you're just going to feel bad.
That's how I felt.
Like, man, that's usually me making people feel bad. I guess it's
maybe
time for me to eat the humble pie.
It happens, you know. You definitely tend to fish better when you fish places you're not used to fishing.
Yeah, I guess you think outside the box maybe a little more than going back to your old. This is the way.
I just don't think you get stuck in habits. You know, you fish a body of water. You're used to, okay, well, when you see this, you do this, and when you see that, you do that. You know, and well, when you're not fishing a body of water, you go back to, you know, a list. You know, you do this and that, and then you react to what you see versus what you've seen in the past.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. The fish in the river's super fun though. Anybody who's never went and fished any of those tournaments, it's just go. You know, just go for the experience is fun because there's so many different ways you can fish. I will say, fishing in the river, the way once you figure it out, the way they set up is a lot easier to narrow down your options. Then it becomes finding where they are.
Yeah. Because
there's a lot of places they aren't. But once you figure out what they want to be on, they're easy to target. You just have to cover water. That's the biggest thing in the rivers. You have to cover water. It's not like here at the lakes where you can typically go any direction. They can tell you to go a certain way and you can normally catch something. The rivers, they're either there or they ain't. You got to be on them. And them guys that can be super consistent in the river systems, it's not that they're fishing the same holes all the time. They're putting in the hours and covering the water and figuring out where those fish are and not catching them during the week. That's the biggest thing.
Well, I know my buddies that fish both the tournaments, the river and the lake, they're like, man, the river, it's a lot easier going to the river from the lake than from the lake to the river. And I noticed that a lot of the big time guys, when they come down here to these tournaments, other than like Kevin Parks, but a lot of those guys, they come down here and they have some problems.
Well, the current helps set fish up. You know, if they're always in current will dictate everything you're doing. When you go somewhere where there's no current, and you gotta think outside the box. It's like, holy crap, these fish can do whatever the hell they want to do.
Yeah, and
for no reason.
Like in Texoma, they use every inch of that lake.
Yeah.
Whereas some lakes, you can eliminate 2/3 of the lake and focus. All right, now I'm just going to look up here in this third, and I can dissect this third and find fish. Where Texoma, hell, they could be anywhere on 90,000 acres, which I don't know. The big fish are not. It's not like those big fish are everywhere on that lake. Like there's striper everywhere. It seems like you can be in the wrong area a lot.
Well, they won't let me go fish where Cody caught splash at.
So that's a wildlife refuge, right?
He caught it in the wildlife refuge in Hagerman. That was a big thing during the Cat Masters tournaments, was making sure everybody understood that they have buoys out. Once you go past those buoys, you're in the refuge, and the basically prime time catfishing is hunting season. So the refuge is closed for access by water, by any kind of boat or anything. So
yeah, you got to fish it by shore, right?
Yeah, yep. That's how he caught it. Bank fishing. But I can't run guided trips in there. Period. Yeah. Even if the body of water is open. But what's funny is if you look at it on a map, I mean, it's in the back of an arm. It's real shallow for the most part, and I don't know. It was crazy because he caught a 50-something that day, and it was his biggest fish ever. And then he turned around and caught splash. So
well,
biggest fish any of us had ever seen.
A couple times, and he's like, I wasn't even that great of an angler then. We
all bank fished. That's how we fished. None of us had boats.
That's what he said. He's like, I got into catfishing kind of after. I mean, he's like, obviously he was into catfishing, but he's like, but I didn't really get that. Gave me the platform to do what he's, basically doing now. But he wasn't even a full-time guide for the longest time. I mean, he was doing roofing or construction or.
Yeah, I think he owned. I think he moved houses.
Yeah, that's right.
And he did that for a while. I don't remember exactly. Cody's kind of quiet. He is. I know Cody.
We might with him, and he's like, that was kind of weird. I'm like,
yeah.
It's like
he's definitely quiet. He doesn't give anything up. That's for sure.
Yeah, we fished shad kill, and it wasn't good.
No.
There was threadfin floating by the millions, and he's like, well, we probably shouldn't be fishing today, but
I mean,
we went.
The hardest part, the hardest thing to do is when you're fish full time is to reschedule, because things like that, you got to try to make things happen.
He's like, if I'd have known who you were, I probably would have rescheduled it. I'm like, I ain't worried, man. It's fishing. Hell, so you can come back anytime, but yeah,
there was that one year where you could see like 5 to 10 foot of what looked like a thermocline down there, but it was dead shad.
Yeah, that's what it was, and I think he comes out of Cedar Bayou Marina, I believe, and I mean the marina is just, it was from 5 feet ashore was just floating dead and everywhere. Just it's like, holy crap. Yeah.
He still fishes out of the same marina. Still has that same big boat house, and
he got a new boat though, right? Didn't he get a new boat?
So he's got the Blazer, which is similar, to what I run too, and he's also, I think he's got a Pro Cat 240 now. I think he brought him a Pro Cat, and I think he actually bought that in mind to try to start targeting tournaments a little bit more.
Yeah, well, they did well down. Was it Livingston? Didn't they have a Cat Masters on Livingston this year?
I don't know. On Toledo Bend.
Toledo Bend. That's what it was. Toledo Bend. I can't believe they're having a Cat Masters on Toledo Bend. They ended up catching some big fish out of that lake.
That for a very, very long time, Cody and my dad and Steve and them, they've been going to Toledo Bend. And
okay, so
it's amazing the fish that are in that lake.
Really?
I'm surprised the lake record hasn't come out of there. I mean, it's 90 miles long with cypress trees everywhere, and I mean, it's the amount of fish they catch
warm down there, right? I mean, it's doesn't get caught.
The Sabine River comes in. It's real famous to go up the river a long ways and catch giant sand bass up there spawning during the spawn.
Yeah. I mean, everybody talks about that sand bass run on that lake.
That's another lake that is set up really, really good. Whitney is another, really deep. Belton. OH Ivy is honestly a really good catfish lake, but when you're pumping out so many 13-pound largemouth, people forget about the slimy fish.
Yeah, there's been some giants caught out of there for sure. I mean, I'm like, damn, that's got to have some really. I mean, when you look at any of those deep timber lakes, tend to be good spots for big blues, and if there's big other fish, there's generally going to be big blues too. So,
especially down in this part of the country.
Yeah. So, like, what do you mean?
Well, just I fish so many people that are from, northern Kansas, and then you go up a little further, and they talk about not seeing that many blue cat. They'll normally it goes big blues, then it transitions into flatheads, and then it pretty much transitions into channel cat, and
Yeah.
then you got to go east, get into the major river systems when you start seeing the big blues and stuff showing up again all the time.
Yeah, they like those big river systems and lakes that have a river that's flowing into it seem to be prime. I I guess Texoma has got a lot of the.
My little ones they've been out shopping and stuff, so they just walked in the door.
How old are your kids?
One just turned 14, and the other one will be 8 on Thanksgiving this year.
Oh,
Both,
nice. So I got
both girls.
a 7-year-old. He'll be 8 December. So I know all about that. Is he wild like mine?
Or no, I got both girls. I got 2 girls.
Okay. All right. Well, you got your hands full then.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm gonna come up there and I might fish. I might come up there this weekend. I'm definitely coming up there after Thanksgiving. So
I'll be out there. I took off for 2 or 3 days around Thanksgiving.
Matt's gonna take me out. I think Friday. Thanksgiving's Thursday, right? I believe Thanksgiving's Thursday. I'm gonna go fish with Matt on Friday. Appreciate that, Matt. That's awesome, buddy, that you're gonna take me. So we'll be out there grinding it out.
The last big fish I caught, not last year, the year before, the 90. Sean caught it.
John today's like, yeah.
Thanksgiving is always, I don't know. Thanksgiving's good to me because of both the 90 pounders I've caught, both came around Thanksgiving.
So what? How deep were they?
One I caught at like 35 foot, and the other one you were talking about the islands.
Yeah,
I was back over that way, and that's where Sean caught that big one at. And so we were kind of honestly
up on top of the ledge on a flat.
Well, if you've scanned over there by the islands, it's narrow.
Yeah,
and you got that one long ridge that runs off the islands. We were basically between that ridge and where you actually officially drop into the river channel.
Yeah, usually around Thanksgiving, I'm looking there, and then if they're not there, I'm looking out in the channel. But I'm also looking for it seemed like the birds get pretty active around then, and you can kind of look.
Well, we've had enough cold fronts that the water temperatures finally getting out of the mid 60s.
Yeah,
because a week ago, after we had all the rain and the cold, all those birds were everywhere. And now, like Friday and Saturday, there were still some birds. Well, yesterday, today, I don't think I hardly seen a seagull flying. And there was thousands out there from Thursday through the weekend. So that cooler water wakes the lake up for sure.
Yeah, it seemed like they start getting fired up when the water hits into the 50s. And as it starts approaching the 40s, man, it's really on fire. So well, Daniel, I see you've got the family. You probably need to get back to the family. I know I heard mine banging around out there. My wife's probably ready for me to go get off.
Dad really told a whole lot of people, but we're closing on a house first of next week.
Oh, and, congrats, buddy. That's big.
So my sister-in-laws live literally, my best friend, Zach, he married my wife's sister, and we live next door to each other.
Awesome.
And so they all came in. They went over there just now. So, but my little one, she's like me. I'd rather, once I get home, I'm more like, hey, let's just lay back and chill and relax. And she's the same way. So she'll stay over here with me and hang out versus go hang out with all the other people.
Well, y'all, I'm definitely going to talk to you later this week. I appreciate you coming on the show. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, just if you come up, give me a shout. I don't expect myself to be anywhere other than where you've seen me. this past weekend. I mean, there's
right.
too much going on out there that there's no way they're just going to leave. We just may have to move a little bit.
Yeah, go. Sometimes you got to go find them. So I'll be out there. I don't know. I'll probably, usually when I get intel from you, I just take kind of the broad information you give me, and then I try to figure it out. And a lot of times I can do that. Sometimes that lake kicks my tail, and I have to, I have to ask.
I mean, even where we were, I mean, you could put 10 boats over there, and we still wouldn't have been around each other. There's so much room. That's how the whole lake is. That's why the first year the Cat Masters came down, and they had like 200 boats. The lake was flooding, which was weird for that time of year in January. A ton of water rolling in the lake. That really had everybody spread out, and it's just such a big body of water. I mean, you can put a lot of people on there and still never see each other.
Well, there was how many boats the last couple of Cat Masters up there?
Well, every year it went down a little bit because everybody hates
like that last one you won. They said there was like 77 boats.
Yeah, there wasn't near as many. Of course, the one I finally win, there wasn't 200 boats.
It seemed like that first or second one there was 200, and that one they had at PK, they said there was 250 or something crazy.
Yeah, whatever the caps were, those first couple of years they filled it, and it filled early. But like you said, we kind of lost a lot of those river fishermen you were talking about because the fishing's so much more different here.
I noticed a lot of them didn't come back, but probably because I just figured because it's
tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even
and the conditions were it was a big there was a big front that hit, right? And you had to make a big change. Is that
well, the last one that that me and my dad won.
Oh, wait. That was the one with the PF. The one I'm thinking was, I guess, Travis. Did he win one? The PFL style one?
I'm not sure. I don't remember. Oh, Brian won the one here on Texoma.
The one last year where they videoed everybody on their boats.
Yeah, when it was pouring down rain the whole time. That's probably my least favorite thing to fish in. I'll fish in anything unless if it's downpouring, I might be a little grumpy. I do not like fishing in the rain.
Yeah, it can be difficult. Do you have an enclosure?
No, not on that boat. I don't run a T-top, one because it's in my way for 90% of what I do. And then, if it gets too comfortable,
you're casting a lot. So when you're putting out your rods for striper fishermen, you put everything out for them.
No, striper fishing, I don't set anything. The only thing I actually set up is when I'm catfishing.
Okay.
Because the way we pull boards, or
even
if we anchor fish, I don't mind clients helping me cast. But anybody that drags knows there's a certain way that you got to let everything out, or you can cost yourself 30, 45 minutes.
I agree.
Putting one rod out in the wrong spot.
I think the day we fished, you let me put out one side of the boat, and you're like, "No, I don't normally do this," but
yeah. I mean,
but I've been running boards for it's going on 9 years now, so I mean, I got a pretty decent feel for it. But
I might need to
turn me on to Kevin Park's boards. And I've been running them ever since. So I love Kevin. I know he thinks highly of you. We've talked about you before.
Heck, didn't Kevin? Was it Kevin? Kevin just won a tournament, didn't he?
Yeah, he actually got. I think he's the champion of the series.
Yeah.
And I swear Kevin gets the top 3 tournament at damn near anywhere he goes. That guy man, he's good.
That's what anybody can win one. It's
I'll tell you what, when
you start showing up everywhere you go, that's what will separate the guys who are figuring it out versus the guys who get lucky from time to time.
When you come down here and fish Texas, like that Tawakoni one, and win against the guys like you and You know, a lot of these guys that fish that lake a lot, that's really saying something because
I can't do good on Tawakoni. I don't know why. Another lake I don't like is you go a little further south and go to Cedar Creek. It's a really good really good lake, catfish lake, but that thing has my number every time I go down there. I don't know. It doesn't do good. And then I go to lakes I've never been to, and like when we fish Ray Hubbard, and I've never been to that lake. I pre-fished for 3 hours and then went and won the tournament the next 2 days.
Yeah, I think last time I fished with you, you're like, yeah, I think I could probably go run trips on Ray Hubbard.
I probably could if Texoma gets rough. Ray Roberts and Ray Hubbard are both an hour away, just a little different direction.
Ray Roberts to me is a sleeper lake. I believe it's probably got some giants in it. It's the right age. It's got a ton of good fish in it. There's plenty of forage. The varying structure on that lake is probably as good as any lake I've ever fished.
And it's deeper than people think it is.
It's deep.
You get 70, almost 80 foot some places. And
my buddies that fish it a lot, they're like, yeah, water temp's this, and it's 10 degrees colder than my lake, and it's only 15, 20 miles away.
Yeah, just hop in behind it and follow it down. I don't know, Ray Roberts. I don't know. It's probably one of the first lakes I can remember fishing. Other than Texoma, and that might be why I like it. But Ray Hubbard's another really, really. There's just so many good catfish lakes down here that.
There are a lot of them are what I call like mid-sized big fish. The 20 to 40 pound class. You catch good amount of them. Guys like, man, those lakes you fish are the best. Like, man, there must be a million fish in them. But I tell guys, there's good fish, but you got to be in the right. You got to be key. You got to be zoned in on them, or else you won't get any. It's not. Yeah. These lakes are difficult to fish here in Texas, and I think when I see what you do, I think that's why I think so highly of you, because I see you go to Ray Roberts and just destroy that lake, where everybody else just getting their tail handed to them.
I ain't gonna lie.
Boy, Daniel just smoked that lake.
I really like that lake for some reason. And then actually the person who really, earlier I was to say the guy who kind of turned me on to the planer board fishing was my guide buddy Lance and Dominic up in central Oklahoma. Lance is the one that kind of, he runs Lance's guide service up there. And he asked me one time if I'd ever seen him. And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about, dude. And I ended up ordering some, and then I was like, hey, he's got something figured out. And so then he just kind of started using them and, figuring out how to work. And I was like, holy cow, I don't think I'm ever going to fish another way. Like this way's good all the time, man. Anchor fishing is awesome, but man, pulling anchors out of, which now I spot like I don't throw anchors anymore.
Yeah.
But
that's what surprised me when I fished with you, because I'd always anchored up. When I anchor fish, I drop anchors, and you're like, no, we're gonna. And now I may have,
unless I go shallow, then I'm gonna
back, but we're gonna spot lock on these fish, and that's what we did. It was windy. We moved around, but you're like, yeah, you just got to have the right weight. And I think we had dragging weights on. You use the same weights.
Oh, I like them when I anchor because they slide, and sometimes you get some weird bites, soft bites. They run a lot. I can't say it really helps because I'll also run clips, but I have no problem just using the exact same weights that I drag with to anchor fish with.
I don't remember using a 3-way swivel or.
Yeah, so my rig has kind of changed over the years, but
doesn't everybody's changed a little bit?
I change mine all the time, and there's no need to change it. Just new stuff comes out, so you try other things. My standard, I run, when I'm drifting, I run a 3-way. Then my main line and my weight are together. So main line here, the barrel swivel, my weight's on the bottom, and then the 3-way is where my leader line goes. That way it's naturally pulling it off the bottom right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And,
so when you're dragging shallow, you're using a little lighter weight, and when you go deeper, you go a little bit heavier. Or if you know you're going to anchor, you go ahead and go a little bit heavier. What's your methodology on choosing your drift weights? Because I told you I was going to send you some.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I use 1.5 up to I don't.
Yeah, like so. Honestly, I pretty much make my own weights. I just reuse my cast net weights that I use, put them on. Super simple, super easy for what I do. I tear enough cast nets up that I have a surplus of round weights to use.
And there's not a ton of debris and stuff on the bottom of Texoma.
That's the nice thing about Texoma. I can make 50 weights and probably last all year. There's a lot of lakes that 50 would last me a week. Especially if you're having
a ledge and there's some boulders and stuff on that ledge occasionally, but other than that, it's fairly clear. Or if you're up by the mouth of the Red, there's some big ass trees, that you'll hit from time to time.
But this lake you can almost just throw your drift socks out and drift for miles and never have to worry. You could even change depths and never really have to worry about anything.
Yeah, that's nice.
There's some lakes like Roberts. You get off your line by 20 yards, it's devastation. You're not good.
I know. I trust you. I've lost everything at the same time. I'm like, oh man!
The first few times we went to Possum Kingdom, I was like, oh, here we go. It's going to be a nice, long, easy dragging lake. It looks beautiful. And you turn the graph on, you start scanning around, and you're like, I ain't dragging this lake. There ain't no way.
Yeah, there's a few sections you can drag, but a lot of that stuff.
Minimal. And if you get off your line just a little bit, and it's not like it's just straight standing timber either. It's freaking trees.
Yeah, with side branching.
Yeah. So
there's no way you're getting through that.
No, definitely not. But it's what makes me change my weight size is just how fast I'm going, and I don't know. I try to stay around that 2 to 3 ounces all the time. If I'm running 1.5 ounce, it's probably because I'm running really small baits.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to catch, under 5 pound fish because I'm running really small everything. But most of my stuff is 2 to 3 ounces. And I've actually gotten to where instead of making heavier 4 or 5 ounce weights, like we were talking about earlier, I'll just clip 2 or 3 ounce weights on.
Yeah.
And because Texoma allows me to do that without having to worry about getting tangled.
Yeah.
Lakes that are a little rougher, putting 2 weights on there might not work as good.
Yeah.
But
I got
bigger baits.
You'll be getting some here in a few days. So that's just thanks for helping me from time to time. And
I appreciate it.
I know you use rattles too. So next time I'm probably going to see you Saturday. If things go well, I'll probably see you Saturday. So I'll throw you some demon dragons too when I see you. I imagine we'll be in the same.
I carry plenty of them. When they came out with the brutes, those are awesome. Those float up much bigger baits.
Yeah.
I was notorious for cheating and putting demon dragons and a cork on there if I was going bigger. That's what my tackle box sounds like. Yeah, the brute. And I don't have a color selection. I don't have a favorite color.
Color matters. I have been using these Monty's Revenge just because I like the little bit of pink. To me, looks like an injured fish. But I'll bring you some. I'll bring you some up Saturday. So
those
they treat me real good. Demon Dragon's one of my sponsors, so
I try to. I definitely use a bunch of them. I mix it up. I will say the colder it gets, the less I use them. I feel like when the fish are being very aggressive, that rattle makes a major difference. I think they hone in on it faster.
Yeah, I think that it sounds, from what I've heard recordings, it sounds like a bait fish being predated underwater. So, I mean, and I've caught fish that just had the rattle in its mouth, didn't even have the hook. So I
posted
know
a video.
They like the rattle.
Yeah, I made a little video, a couple weeks ago of one of the good days we had, and one of the fish came in, and he had the whole rattle wedged in his mouth. And you can tell when you pull them up, our corks are always crushed.
Yeah. When I use the corks a lot, they just be destroyed.
Yep. And
So.
That's where those Whisker Seeker or the new Dragging Master soft floats come in handy, because I
haven't used those Dragon Masters, but I was hanging out with Kevin at CatCon, and he's like, come over here and check this out. And they got a little brush thing that
they're cool.
That you can drag it through timber and stuff like that.
I haven't used the brush. I've used their weights. I used their weights a little bit before they came out with them, and there were days where they caught more fish. And but my biggest issue I had with them was the way they're set up. They almost made a pinch point to where they come over stuff, they would get stuck easier.
Yeah.
And then they came out with that little brush guard.
It's not lifted. Is that?
Yeah, I just because it went straight to a single swivel.
Yeah.
And then it was a long wait. I don't know. I think it would snake over and then it would stick itself. But that brush guard is amazing. That thing.
And they also got a weedless hook, which I'm like,
those always freak.
My buddies are like, I don't know if that's going to make you lose fish. I'm like, well, it definitely going to make you lose less crap if you're up in timber.
That's for sure.
Now, if I fish timber heavily, I could see where that would be worth. I mean,
fishing like PK, you fish a lot of timber. You fish over the tops of trees. You're in trees.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you're losing. That's what you're getting hung on. Is your hook.
Yep. Your weight normally will slide through a bunch of stuff, but that hook is what catches a bunch of that catches everything.
Yeah, I hit a big boulder pile coming out of that channel last time I was up at Texoma with you, and man, it was huge boulders. I saw that, and I'm like, oh man, and all my rods were buried, but I made it through.
Not a lot of stuff to get hung up on, but when you do find an area, you can tell that they stumped everything, because literally the tree will be stumped off. It'll be 3 foot tall and flat, and you see all the little roots coming off the bases of those stumps. That's what you're getting hung up in.
Yeah, those fish love those areas, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way Cody and my dad and everybody used to fish. Back when you just ran those LCX like 110s and 12s, so it was just a map in 2D. How many fish did they set up on that was actually stumps? But how many big fish did they actually catch? A lot. They caught a lot of big fish all the time. But dragging definitely produces more numbers. But I
agree. It switches up from getting a couple of good ones and a handful of good fish, but then 2 big ones. But to all of a sudden your best days, you're like, you're catching 20 of them. It's like,
Yep.
And when I anchored, that was like the trip of a lifetime, getting a trip like that. Now it's every year we're having trips like that, and it's not all the time, but it does happen a lot more frequently. Dragging now, Texoma, I know you drift a lot, but I a lot of these other smaller lakes we drag where we're trying to hit specific structure.
Yeah, see, I'm not real big on staying on very specific contour lines.
I think that your lake allows that,
but that's probably what it is. But I've noticed on some other lakes it doesn't matter. But I will say that
when you're out on the flats and stuff like that, I don't think that it matters. But if they're on, at the bottom of a point, and then maybe the bends in the channel and stuff like that, then I believe it really helps.
Whenever I start noticing that, when I notice they're really isolated in a bend or something,
you'll anchor on them.
I want to anchor. Yeah. I'll quit dragging and I'll just straight up anchor. The only time I'll drift over them if it's too windy, I'll just keep going over and over and over. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes anchor fishing doesn't catch them. You sit there for an hour and never even get a bite, and then you get one takedown and you miss him, then you just want to, then you're mad. Then,
I
but
think
you
what
pull
I
up and
think
you drift over them, and maybe that bait moving for
I
some
think
reason will get them to bite.
I think that drifting or dragging it presents the bait in more of a natural manner and if you're using, now I use chunks, but I also use big pieces that look like a fish. And I think when you present your bait in a natural manner to a fish that's sitting maybe on ambush structure, that might be the bend in the channel, or he's just waiting there. A big fish just waiting there for something to come by that looks enticing, and a
Mm-hmm.
big piece of bait that looks injured, that's just barely going by. It's like, I'm getting that. Whereas anchoring, it's just sitting there not doing anything. So I think you might get a reaction bite from dragging where you might not get that.
They'll have to be feeding. I think they got to be feeding pretty good on anchor to catch them at a fast pace. If they're not feeding very good, I think sometimes that slow presentation of it moving by them just will trigger them to attack it, just out of just making it look more natural.
I know a lot of guys do well anchoring, but they generally are setting up in an area they think they're going to come through, because big fish have in a certain area, they're on the move, and they have these areas that they're going to check that's in this section. And at a certain time of the day, they're going to hit this point, and then they're going to move over there to that little small flat off the channel. And then they may go check this big stump of a tree. And I think guys that kind of understand when they're going to come through, they do well that way. It's a sit and wait type of game, and you're not catching anything, and all of a sudden you catch 4 good ones all at the same time.
That's the difference in fishing by yourself or tournament fishing versus guiding. Me, I can sit there and wait, but when I got people on the boat, it's hard to sit there and wait that long.
Wait, I like to fish basically what you fish. I look for the biomass. I'm looking for where the large concentration of fish are.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to hit that. And
there's probably going to be multiple schools, multiple areas that are going to produce every day, multiple big groups of fish that you can get on in different places of the lake and fish. But normally there's only where there might be 4 or 5 areas where the fish are feeding, on a regular basis where you can catch them. Out of those 5 areas, 2 of those areas have better fish in them, and the other areas just have your average size. So that's you just got to narrow it down. Once you figure out where you're catching big fish, don't get fancy.
Yeah.
Don't talk yourself out of it, especially if you're dragging. You just stay with it.
Yeah, stay with it, because you may go through 100 good ones, and it's weird because you go through 100 good ones but you get those 3 and it's a victory. It's like, how many you go through before you get those 3 or 4 is crazy, but that's
you can't catch them if you're staring at your screen driving around.
Yeah.
There's a time for that, but I always feel like when we're pulling baits, bait in the water will tell you more than what your screen's going to tell you.
Yeah.
Not all the time, you still want to.
You got to be on them, though.
You still got to live and die by what
whether you're on them or not.
Pay attention to what you're seeing versus what you're catching.
Yeah.
It normally will go hand in hand. Not all the time. Sometimes they're just going crazy, and it doesn't even matter what's on there. They're just going to bite.
Yeah. I think I said in your post today, some days they jump in the boat, and some days you need to stick a dynamite. So I
don't know if that would have worked. And then you started like, man, I wonder how many fish we pulled past. Like, we'd catch one, and then forever.
Saturday, I'm like, man, we went over so many good fish. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I know I'm fishing just like Daniel's fishing, because I've fished with him before.
Everything matters.
Basic rig. We're using the same bait. I was like, he caught however many you caught, and we caught 5 good. Yeah. I think we caught 4 or 5 good ones, and you caught a whole boatload of them. So, hell, I don't know what made them
The cut of bait to me, the way you cut your bait up makes a major difference.
I agree.
It'll take a while to go.
I like a little flutter in mine.
I tend to run a lot of you know, fillet style.
That's how I like to
side.
Even when I'm filleting them, I want mine to look similar to a fish shape.
It doesn't have to be like this big old chunk that weighs a pound trying to cast it. Those longer fillets are going to give you a bigger profile look.
It's a natural presentation. I tell on this show we talk about it a lot. I think the natural presentation is overlooked by a lot of guys.
A lot of guys will like to troll. They'll like to pull into the wind. I just don't have a lot of luck doing that. I have more luck going with the way that the wind's supposed to be blowing.
I tell guys when you got wind, when you look on the graph, you can generally see the fish orienting into the wind because the bait's coming to them. Now, if there's no wind or very light wind, you'll see fish doing all this. I mean, they're not all facing like this. And I don't know that it matters which way you go on a day like that. But if you got wind,
I always go with the wind.
Yeah.
No matter what direction it's coming from, with the wind I don't know how many times I've pulled through and go, okay, I'm gonna turn around and go right back through that area.
Yeah.
To save me time, I'm just gonna.
You got 10 going this way, you caught one going the other.
You catch one going back and then stop, go back through them with the wind, and then catch another 10 or 12 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I feel going with the wind produces more fish for me than going against.
I agree. I think they orient into the wind to feed.
And when you're going against the wind too, especially if there's a little wind going, you're going to have to increase your weight, or the natural. You're pulling against what little current the waves are going to generate. But you notice your boards will go further out to the side of the boat. Your pattern looks real pretty doing that. But are your baits on the bottom? Is your presentation like it's supposed to be?
Right.
I just don't think it presents it in a way that I catch less fish with how I'm rigged up.
That's me too, man. But so for guys that want to come fish with you, Daniel, how do they find you?
Well, you can. This is my guide server or my website. No, my website's pretty out of date though. Most people follow us, especially if you're on here. Obviously, you're on social media. You can follow me at Southern Monsters on Facebook. That's my guide page, or Instagram's Lake Texoma Catfish Guide, and same thing on TikTok. It's Lake Texoma Catfish Guide, or my tags on there. And then you can call me at 903-421-4561 is my cell. Follow my posts. Just message me on any platform that I'm on. Obviously I'm on my phone all the time. So if I don't get back to you, it's normally I'm on the water or we're real busy. You can call me, make sure you leave a message. The hardest thing people don't do anymore is leave messages. And but shoot a text. Honestly, shooting a text is so much easier because I can just pay attention. I just won't open it, leave it unread, and then when I get a second, sit down. That's the nice thing about drifting is sometimes you'll have a little time in between fish bites, and I can respond to people and get you booked up. But LakeTexomaCatfish.guide is my website. You can email me, and my phone number is on there too. And at the bottom of my homepage is my Instagram feed. And like I said, I post every trip, good, bad.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
Post every trip, good or bad. It is rare he has a bad trip, but when he does, he'll tell you. You can go see what he does. It's the guy just hammering them. Most trips, he's hammering them, and a bunch of them. I'd say on a normal day, he's catching 40s, maybe a 50, and
yep. So far, my biggest one this year has been 58. I think we've got today kind of killed my streak. I was catching at least 45 to 50 the last 5 trips in a row, and then today squashed that. But typically, because I run combo trips too, where we'll striper fish and catfish in the same day. You catch a dozen to 2 dozen on a catfish only trip for the cooler, and then you got 2 to 4 that we take pictures of and throw back. Then that's a good day. Should be your base for especially this time of year on Texoma. And anything better than that's just excellent. And then you can cut that in half for your combo trips. You can catch 2 to 3 big ones because your time's limited. We're only going to fish 6 or 7 hours, 8 or 9 hour total trip by the time we leave the dock, drive back to the dock, clean fish. Naturally, if you don't clean fish, I just trade that time for more fishing time. So kind of encourages people not to keep it so many for me to have to clean at the end of the day. We'll just fish a little longer.
Yeah, most people that keep fish, they think they're going to eat them, end up a year goes by, and they're like, hey, honey, we forgot to eat these fish. Well, they're all freezer burned. And so I get that. But guys, if y'all want to go learn something from one of the best, Daniel's willing to teach. A lot of guides, they won't. Daniel's willing to give it up. He's a good guy. He's been a good friend to me. And anytime somebody asks me about Texoma, I say there's only one guy I know that's the king. And if you want to go to Texoma, now Matt, he's been friendly to me too, so I'm gonna push some guys his way, Daniel too. But I know you stay busy. You're at this.
You pretty much, you got me, Trey Franklin, Matt Mosley now, Cody Mullinex obviously still runs catfish trips, and you have Kenneth. Kenneth Holmes was another one of the original guys that fished with all of us, with my dad and them whenever I was growing up. That he's I think I seen him on the lake the other day catching bait, and he had his catfish rods in the boat. So there's a couple of us. There's a couple of the older guys that are starting to hey, I think it's time to start getting back into this catfishing stuff.
Yeah.
I have no problem. If I'm booked, I'm going to send you to, one of the 3 or 4
I
guys.
noticed that Matt's been running some trips from you, right? You, right?
Yeah, Zach. Not Zach. Matt will run some trips for me. He'll run some trips for me as I need them.
Yeah.
If you call me, I'll tell you, these are what I have open. If you need something specific, I'm going to tell you straight up, you're not going to fish with me. You're going to fish with one of these other guys.
Yeah.
And
but they're all good too. I mean,
I'm not going to recommend somebody that I wouldn't, that I don't feel like knows what they're doing.
Yeah. And one thing I've found is you guys all kind of communicate, and those fish do move around that lake a lot. And I know guys, a lot of you guys kind of help each other out, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need to, we're all, especially us that are full time. Those are normally the guys I'm going to try to get you with first, the guys that fish full time.
Yeah.
One, because we're on the water more, and 2, this is how we, make a living. So that's who I want to recommend, first off. But there's not a lot of catfish guys. So we all talk to each other for the most part. But the nice thing is we all don't fish on top of each other. I might admit me and Matt fish totally other sides of the lake most of the time. And we'll reach out, and he'll be like, "Hey man, how's it going over there?" And I'll be like, "It's stinking." And I was like, "How's it going over there?" And he's like, "Man, I'm doing pretty good." I was like, "Well, I may give it an hour. If we don't do no good, I'm going to head your way." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, come on." And it'd be vice versa. That's the way it should be to me.
I think that's the best way to be.
Trey went back to working in the oil field now, so now he's going to guide as a just part-time when he wants to, instead of doing it all. He's like, man, doing this all the time is a lot of work.
Yeah.
I was like, you gotta love it, man.
Just go. I mean, good thing about Texoma is you can use that good bait.
Oh yeah. Well, there's so much of it. This time of year too, catching the big gizzard chatter, easy. You go during the day, like today, especially with it being sunny, them things are on the bank. And
yeah,
they're not everywhere on the bank.
My net up in 3 foot. I mean, I probably had 75 pounds of gizzard chatter.
Yeah,
it's just
and big ones. Them ones that are like purple because they're so big. That's the ones you can
they look
get.
like a different species.
Yeah, yeah, they're easy to get. And you got to mix it up. I try to carry an array of bait every day because not everything works the same every single day either. I've won a tournament on that tournament I won on Ray Hubbard. First day, down in Texas, you got to use shad and all that stuff. So we caught everything on shad and perch the first day. The second day, we had one buffalo that was about 15 pounds, and we used every inch of that buffalo. That's the only thing we catch fish on. Couldn't catch nothing on
I
anything
got buddies
else.
that all they use is carp, and they just smash them on carp.
Dean, I don't do as good on carp as I do actual buffalo, but I'll take it all. It doesn't matter. But those I've gotten to kind of the way some guys do them on those Asian carp, the ones that'll jump on the in Mississippi and stuff. So I've found a lot of them guys will catch those, cut their tails off.
He likes to use drum. Do you? I mean,
yeah. We'll use
time
drum.
of year it seemed like those drum they really group up, and they're all about perfect.
Oh,
size,
hey, you catch some that are 10 pounds on this lake.
Yeah, but I know. I just think that's a good size.
That's cut the one side off, hook it through the nose, and run the whole thing out there. Size right there. So I don't know. It'll freak people out sometimes. When you're fishing a body of water that has the potential to produce triple-digit fish, you can get crazy. You can't outbait them. I mean,
I learned that from Michael Littlejohn. He's like, now, Chris, we're going to go big. And today we're going to use a 4-pound carp head. And we're not using the head of a 4-pound carp. We're using a 4-pound carp head. He's like, and if this one goes down, we're going to get a giant. This was
extra floats
12 years ago,
I mean, there's nothing I'm telling you can't outbait them. You ever cleaned any, you clean some 5 and 10 pounders, and you look at the scales that are in them. They're bigger. They're the size of a quarter. You know how big the carp was that fish ate to have a scale the size of a quarter? Massive.
Yeah.
So could you imagine what a 100-pounder? A 100-pounder could eat a 15-pound catfish, like it was nothing.
Yeah.
So it's hard to make yourself use something that big.
Yeah,
But they eat stuff that big. So
I tell guys all the time, go big. Big fish will eat something small, but they also they really like something big too. A lot.
The colder it gets, I say the colder. This time right now in Texoma, when this water temperature will drop about 4. If it'll get to 60 and below, I feel like these fish will really start feeding really, really good, and I'll get crazy on the bait. There's people will freak out. There'll be sometimes I ain't casting it. I got to just let it, just pitch it out there. There ain't no casting that thing. The bait will be so big.
So Daniel, I had a guy the other day that said, I asked what's the difference between a good angler and a high level angler, and they said high level anglers don't talk about catfishing, and I'm like, I know a lot of high level anglers that just love talking catfishing because that's their passion. And, you've always been open with me to talk catfishing. And most of the guys I know that are like-minded like to talk catfishing. So I appreciate you coming on here and talking fishing with us. It's not really a promotional show. We just like to talk fishing, and hopefully some of these guys have learned something. It can help them today. And, if you want to come to Texas and fish with Daniel, go over to it. It's show us your shirt one more time.
All right, there you go. Lake Texoma Catfish.guide is my website.
His guide service is it's Southern Monsters Guide Service. You can find Daniel on Facebook.
Look up just my name on Facebook. My link for my business page. I have a bunch of different pages because everything's linked to my website.
Yeah.
So, but my actual guide service
every day. He fishes multiple lakes. Right now, he's pretty much on Texoma. It's probably one of our best lakes. I try to stay up here. But January and February, this lake can get weird when it gets really, really, really cold. Yeah, I know. A long time ago, you said, I like to leave this lake when it gets really cold because
sometimes it gets hard. I don't understand. I mean, it can be so good right now.
I think it's the great amount of deep water makes there's a lot of area for them to go. And a lot of these other lakes, the deepest section is where they go when it gets cold. So there's a smaller area for them to go to. So
I don't know what makes it tough, but I'll try to stay here as long as I can. If I have to leave, then I will to catch fish, and I'll either go to Ray Hubbard or I'll go to Ray Roberts. Tawakoni's not Tawakoni anymore. There's a lot
going to Tawakoni. I kind of noticed over your posts over the years, it's That's not really a lake. I know you used to leave.
I specifically went down
and
there.
Go down to Tawakoni, but that's
and it just always went, and just the way it was because it was good, but it's not the same anymore. There's a lot of pressure down there, a lot more guides than there used to be. I mean, I don't really think they're hurting the lake by any means because most of the guides are catching and releasing your big fish.
Yeah,
I think it was hurt previous to that.
Yeah, there's a different mentality when you go down to those lakes of the guys that are keep them. Whereas I know probably your lake, there's still. It seemed like a lot of the Oklahoma guys keep them.
Yeah, they run a lot of jug fishing trips. They'll run a combo trip where they'll take.
I've noticed a lot of the guides that are Oklahoma. Well, because my wife's cousin, she dated a guide that was on the Oklahoma side, and they all ran. He's like, we all run jugs, and we keep the big fish. I'm like,
yeah, and on Texoma, you're supposed to only keep one big fish per person, one over 30 inches.
Yeah, but if you got a whole boatload of people,
if you got 6 people in the boat, plus your guide. So Oklahoma still allows you to keep your guide limit on a trip. Texas doesn't. So they can go in with 400 or 700 pounders if they wanted to, and they do. And they just don't post them anymore because there for a long time everybody was hounding them like, hey man, y'all have a table full of fish. What's the need for keeping really big ones all the time? There's not. You wouldn't go shoot your bull in your pasture to put meat on your table. You're gonna go shoot that young stud, or you're gonna go shoot. You're gonna go take a cow to the butcher. Not it's the same thing with the catfish. Why would you take out what's gonna?
Yeah, it takes a long time for a big cat to get big, and I think that the paradigm has shifted, but I Texoma not so much.
No.
Tawakoni not so much. The ones that are closer into the cities, I see a lot more guys turning them loose. But as you get out there to Central Texas, they're keeping them, and if you go east, they're keeping them. And
yep, I'll keep them up to 15 pounds. I'll keep.
One fish. You're 10, like full of them.
10 to 15 pounders are that's going to fall in my 30-inch. 1 over 30. Anything over 15, I'll throw back, no matter what. But normally I'll have 10 to 15 in the cooler, and everything else has to be under there. And there's days where everything's 31, 32, 33 inches. I don't have a lot of eaters because everything's in that teenager to low 20-pound range.
Are you getting more guys that are wanting to turn them all loose, or just keep a few to eat, or is it pretty much your guys are still wanting to keep? Because
I fish so many combo trips. This is the time when a lot of guys fish with me. And this one trip is going to be what they fill their freezer with for the rest of the year, and I won't see them again until this time next year. And we'll get back and they'll be like, hey man, we just finished all that fish we caught. We're ready to, load the cooler up again. So let's go. But that's fine. You just limit on what you're doing, and just everybody kind of knows what the deal is going to be before you leave the dock. And some people keep them, some people just catch them for sport. You got to take fish out for fish to grow.
Yeah, that's for sure. You can overrun with small fish, but you also need to put the big ones back.
And just like if we caught a giant striper, this lake, if you catch a 20-pound striper anymore, you're doing something awesome.
Yeah,
I'm going to try to encourage you because a replica is a heck of a lot prettier these days than a skin mount. I'm going to get you. Let's take some pictures, get some measurements of it. Let's let this fish go. Like they don't all get this big. We want that one to go make babies.
Yeah.
So.
I think
same thing with every species catch.
Keep up the good work, buddy. I appreciate you. Thanks for being a good friend to me. Thanks for helping so many other guys and being a good role model type angler for other people to look up to. I've known you a while. You've always been good to me. I'm gonna keep sending guys your way. It's not a ton, but anybody that ever asks me, I'm gonna send them to you. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. I know the guys loved it tonight and had a lot of questions and stuff. And
yeah, I said I don't mind. Ask questions all you want. I'll tell you what I think or how I look at something the best I can. I don't.
I appreciate
reach out. You
what
come
we
up
on Texoma, because that it ain't easy, and it's made me look at that lake a lot different. Just anytime I go fish it, I'm gonna ask you because I know you're really good at the lake, and you're always willing to give me the straight answer, whereas other guys are real cryptic. So I appreciate you, buddy, and
yeah.
I'll see you Friday, or I'll see you probably Saturday somewhere out there deep, and I'll bring you some demon dragons and throw them on your boat. So
I'll be out there. I'll be out there for sure. It should be a pretty good weekend following this.
I think it should be, maybe tomorrow's. Well, I think we got rain, so it's going to suck for anybody out there.
What's bad is my guy for today originally he had to reschedule, so I moved my trip from tomorrow because it was supposed to rain and be big north winds to today. We were like, oh, it's pre-front. We ought to get out there and kill them, and then it backfired on us so bad.
But instead,
I'll get to sleep in tomorrow, kind of reset.
That's good.
I got a ton of stuff I need to do to the boat. Just changing pumps and just.
Yeah, it seemed like you get behind on that fishing.
No, it doesn't take very long.
Up with that, man.
Doesn't take very long. Well, and that just you got to run good stuff and stuff that's easy to fix.
Yeah,
that extreme is super easy to take pumps out and put new pumps in. But when you run them for 3 weeks straight, the thing hardly ever turns off. When I'm this time of year when I can keep bait for days on end, and eventually those pumps aren't going to like it. So,
all right, well, I appreciate it again, and like I said, I'll probably see you Saturday somewhere out there. I'll come holler at you when I see you, and if I'm struggling, you're definitely going to hear from me. But hopefully, it's going to be one of them days, one of them good days.
It should be good. I'm looking forward to this weekend.
All right, man. Appreciate you coming on, guys. For Daniel Armstrong and Southern Monsters Guide Service, El Gato Azul TV. Tight lines. God bless. Azul out.